Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and our special guest on the program today is Colt Pfautz with the Hesston Police Department. How are you doing today, Colt?
Pretty well. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I mean, in full disclosure, I do have to say this, that we tried this meeting already once, and we had an act of God, I think is what they call it, with a power surge. So we have to be out here again and do it again, but I appreciate you twice now coming out here and giving of your time to be able to just talk with me and let the public know about who you are and where you came from and what got you involved in law enforcement and what you're doing now. So thank you for that. I just, like everybody knows, I start the program with where you hail from, where you grew up, maybe, I mean, if you want, where you were born. I mean, whatever you want to talk about as far as just like going to school, whether you did sports, what was your extracurricular activities that you'd like to do or that you liked to do. So without further ado, Colt, where in goodness gracious did you grow up?
Hesston is where I grew up. We lived in the country for a little while, and then just outside of Hesston, moved into Hesston, middle school age. Lived there still live there today. Went through Hesston schools, elementary through middle through high school. During school, I did basketball, football a little bit. Ended up finding my niche was golf. That was kind of my main sport I focused on. Then towards the end of my schooling, I just spent more time at the golf course than doing much of anything else, and then hunting and fishing the entire time with that. So golf and hunting go really well together because when it gets cold, you don't want to golf, so you can go out and go hunt and do all that stuff.
Right.
My junior year of high school, I made the best worst decision of my life and signed up for a free T-shirt from the National Guard. Ended up enlisting my junior year. Got out of high school, got through basic and AIT. Worked up at Mill Ridge and Mountain Ridge for a little bit on the assembly line. Found that was not for me. From there, I jumped over to Hutch Prison. Honestly, I don't even know why I applied there. Just something came up, and I was like, you know what, that sounds like a good job, and it was much better paying than what I was making. So went to Hutch Prison, and then while I was there, I got deployed to Iraq for a deployment. Came back from there. Went back to work for Hutch Prison for a little while, and then I was tired of driving back and forth, so then I applied over at the Harvey County Detention Center, where old Vern Schmidt brought me in for an interview after I got off of work at the prison one day, and was like, well, you know what, I'll offer you a job. And I was like, this is awesome. I don't have to drive to Hutch, and I'm making the same money. And from there, I started doing ride-alongs with a lot of the Newton P.D. guys and Sheriff's Office guys. Did another deployment to Africa after about 2 or 3 years in the jail. When I came back from that deployment, a short time after that, T. Walton called me to the office, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking at first, but then he's like, hey, we got a road opening. And then I started doing law enforcement out on the street from there.
Okay, so let me take you back. Okay, so I didn't know that you had served in the military. We kind of know each other a little bit from being youngsters. I mean, you go back to Hesston, and this is something I always think about, and I don't know if it's just the first connection with you or something, but back in the day, you didn't mention that you loved to play rollerblade hockey, because we played some rollerblade hockey together, okay? It's not an official sport, but by God, it can get awful competitive, can get brutal, you know?
there was a lot of physicality learned in the old Whitestone fenced-in basketball court for any kid of that era. I think that was a summer night staple, and living across the street from it, it was awesome.
Yeah. The first time I ever met you, man, it had to have been like in 1997 or 98. So we're getting up there. But I was moseying on down to see if anybody was going to play some rollerblade hockey, and you happened to be down there, and we played some rollerblade hockey. I mean, it's really kind of hard to play rollerblade hockey with two different people, just two people. But we still played some rollerblade hockey together, and then I met you that way. And obviously, then whenever there was a crowd or of guys or whatever type of a thing. And you do have two older sisters, which are about my age. So, so there's some familiarity there. But, you know, you take Hesston just in general for people that are not familiar with Hesston and not familiar with Harvey County, we don't have a very large population, right? Yeah. So when you're talking about a town of 3,000 people, I mean, you get to know everybody there just based upon mean, especially Hesston, a lot of people just focusing on kids in school and school activities and neighborhood activities, and that was back in the day before we had what do you call it? Like playing video games online and stuff. So
so I just found out actually yesterday that we have esports now in high school where they have video game like competitions, and I was like, man, I was talking with one of the other guys. I'm like, I didn't even know they had that. I wish we had that back in our day. We'd have like Halo, because we always did Halo tournaments as I got older, and that's when like online gaming became a thing. But I was learning all sorts of stuff last night about e-gaming apparently at school.
Yeah. So what possessed you to want to go? You know, you said something about getting T-shirts. So you got reeled in that way, right?
Yeah.
They threw out that bait. You took the bait. They got your name. They got where you lived. It's like, dang, I didn't realize I was going to have to get a call from this person. But when the opportunity was presented to you to look at going into the military, what was your thinking behind wanting to do that?
So my grandfather served in the military, and back then, at that age, he hadn't really talked about it much. I knew he had. I saw pictures. My parents had mentioned it, and being a junior, you're very, I don't want to say gullible, but you're susceptible, or people can come to you and be like, sway you how you're going to go in life. And like I said, I signed up for the T-shirt, and knowing now, like, I should just put down a fake phone number or something. I put down our home phone back before cell phones. I put down my home phone number, and the recruiter ended up getting a hold of my mom, and she set up the meeting, and he showed up, and we talked. And I've had people ask me why the National Guard. I was like, well, he's the first recruiter that I signed anything up for, and he ended up kind of just making that first leap to it. We had a meeting. He sat there and told Mom, "Oh, he'll be fine. This is all just he won't go anywhere.
He's 2 weeks a year.
He'll
2
do
weeks a year, 1 weekend a month.
He'll do that, and he'll get free college for life." And I'm like, "Okay, sure, yeah, sign me up." And it just, the military has always just kind of drawn my attention. I played paintball with a lot of the kids back then too around Hesston, so it was always in the back of my mind. And it just, when he showed up at the house, and it was like, oh, hey, this is happening. You know what? Let's do it. And funny thing is, I can still blame my parents because they had to sign for me because I was 17. So
signed your life away before you're even an adult, you know? Yeah. Okay, so what was that like? Did you just go directly into, they waited till you graduated, so over the summer? So how did that work?
I signed up my junior year during the school. They had a program, I don't know, I think they still have it, where there's regular drill that once you graduate basic IT you go to, but then they had a prep, I'm going to call it a prep drill, where they still had drill. They would basically prepare you for basic training. They'd teach you how to march, how to stand, how to do PT, how to do proper push-ups, which nobody does proper push-ups anymore, it looks like. They teach you all this stuff on the weekend. So you go down to Wichita and you'd spend the night there on Saturday night, get up, do all the PT stuff, do all the marching. They teach you how to tear apart M16s back in the day. Cool. So you did that every month. And then in the summer, my MOS, it was a one station unit training. So they're like, we're not going to send you to basic, bring you back, and then send you to AIT, which is like, that's a good idea, because once you go start basic, you're getting really good shape. And back in high school, it's comical to me as I'm getting older, I'm watching my body like, oh, I'm not in that as good a shape as I was. But so I graduated my senior year, and then I went to basic and AIT all at one place at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I think it was 12 weeks I was down there for that. And then once you graduate there, you go to your unit, which I was assigned here out of Newton.
Okay, so what's for those that don't know, what is the National Guard unit here in Newton?
Charlie Battery, the 1st Field Artillery 161st Regiment, or it's 161, Charlie Battery 161.
So what do you do? I mean,
so the drill is the same usually. From what I can recall, it's been a while since I got out, but you come in for your formation. Each month they have some sort of different training to do. Like I remember for sure April is what we call live fire. We take our paladins to Fort Riley. We go up there and we do live fire missions over the weekend. Usually that's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday drill. So you leave Friday morning, head up there, you go do fire missions, usually all day Saturday, late to Saturday night, because we shoot loom rounds, which were the coolest thing ever. Sunday morning you might do a few more, then you do some field movements. You go back, you spend 4 or 5 hours cleaning up your paladin, and then you drive back to Newton, clean up the armory, and head home.
So, okay.
And then there's other times when you just do, they have all sorts of training just to keep you kind of up on knowledge and stuff. And then the 2 weeks a year, my favorite one was Fort Guernsey, Wyoming. We go up there and it's beautiful. You're driving a Paladin along a river that's got like a cliff that if you would have turned a little bit too much, you could have went off the cliff. So just beautiful country, and you got to travel, and that the recruiter didn't lie. You get to travel and you get to see places you probably wouldn't see. So I can't be mad at him for it. Like I said, best, worst decision ever. I'm so glad I did it, but if you asked me when I was in, I was like, this is the dumbest thing I ever did.
Yeah, well, okay. So if somebody's listening right now that asks themselves the question whether or not they should go into the military, they're not. You have some options, right? So you can sign up for full time. I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology, but you can go and you can sign up for full time. So basically, 4 to 8 years of your life, you leave home and you don't come back. Yeah. Until you got break or something like that. But otherwise, you might be all over the United States or all over the globe. But you're not going to be in Harvey County, Kansas, America, if that's where you're from. So would you suggest to somebody listening, whether that would be as a young person who's considering, do I want to go into the military, maybe going into the National Guard as a great opportunity for their life? If
you're not fully committed to the military, yes, the National Guard's a great option. It was described to me as just dipping your toe into the pool to see if you like it or not. A lot of guys, so when I went through basic and AIT, there was a lot of other National Guard guys there, not from here, but just other places around the country. Several of them was like, hey, I've enjoyed this so much, and full-time Army is basically what you do in basic and AIT, except you're an adult. Like down in the basic, you're not treated as an adult, you're treated as a child and babysitter the whole time, but you go do your job every day. After you're done with basic and AIT, you just go do your job, and you just train all the time. And those guys are like, this is the best thing ever, and they loved it. A couple of guys I'm still Facebook friends with now are still in it. Still, they're all about ready to retire now, but they're like, it was ups and downs like every job, and that's what you kind of have to look at it at. So it is full worth the conversation. I would tell guys to sleep on it before you sign the contract and sign a dotted line, but I've had several of my family members that I've encouraged to get in, and one of them got in and loved every second of it. So
yeah. Okay, so you had mentioned that you went to Iraq. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing this is probably around the time that we're of the same age group here. So after 9/11, and then we went into conflict with Afghanistan, and then Iraq shortly to follow. As a National Guardsman, that wasn't necessarily the expectation that you had. That you kind of knew it in the back of your mind, I'm sure, because that's part of the signing on the dotted lines. Like, hey, if we ever need to call you up for full-time active duty, we're going to do that. But what when you got the call that you're going to wind up going to Iraq, what was going through your mind?
I was just overwhelmed. I remember the recruiter telling my mom, "Oh no, the unit he's going to is already deployed. He won't end up overseas. It'll be a long rotation for his time comes to go back over there." I quickly learned after a few drills that it's probably not true. At that time, the rotations, it was 08, 09. The rotations were pretty steadily, and Kansas is one of the more apt to go to send their unit over. But the first thought I was like, you see all the things on TV and everybody's getting blown up, and I was overwhelmed. However, the mindset of I'm going to go over there, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to come back home. And a lot of us were all that age, all ran around together in high school from here in Newton. There was several of us that are in that unit. It was one of those things that's like, we're going to take care of each other. And it's a brotherhood, just like law enforcement, military is very much a brotherhood, especially over there, because it's the only person you can lean on is the person beside you.
Yeah. So what was the most, you went from Harvey County, Kansas, clear across the globe to, Iraq, right? Yeah. And for many people that have never been there, we can only in our mind's eye, and like what you said, see on TV or whatever, can even get a glimpse of maybe that experience. What was it like when you took off in a plane of Harvey County or wherever you take out, maybe Wichita or something, and then land in Iraq, and they start running the drill at you, and they tell you where you're at and what's going on, and What was that like? Was that overwhelming, or?
So they have a thing called pre-mob, which kind of gets your mind right. We ended up going to Fort Bliss, Texas, to do our pre-mob. We flew out of Salina. They dropped us we went into Fort Bliss. They take you out to an operating area that's out in the middle of nowhere. Super desert, so it's coincidental. It's like, oh, you're going to Iraq where it's kind of deserty, and they have you in the desert training and doing a lot of stuff there. And then when we went overseas, the initial part where we flew out of Texas, I think we stopped in Bangor, Maine, yes, because the plane broke down in Bangor, Maine, so we had to stay a night at a hotel, which was hilarious.
It's a good thing it didn't break down while you were flying.
Yeah, well, apparently the landing gear did break, and they got us. They didn't tell anything until we were done, or done on the ground. But so we stayed there for a night, and then we flew through Germany and then into Iraq, and then we went straight to our FOB, which was FOB Grizzly in Ashraf City, I think is how they called it. It's been a minute. But getting there, the culture shock wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. I mean, it was completely different than anything you'll see here. Like, so when we started doing patrols and stuff, a lot of the churches here were sending care packages over, like candy, just random stuff, and a lot of the stuff we had a whole bunch of, so we'd take it out on patrol and just give it to kids, just because, I mean, they're literally living in a sandbox house. Like, it's just bricks made of mud, and it's just a little hut. And so we'd go, I mean, the kids loved it when we would come by because we'd give them candy. It's like, well, maybe we're friends with them. They'll warn us if they know something's going on. It's kind of the mindset.
Make friends.
That's what it was. And one of the things that stuck out in my mind is somebody sent a whole bunch of things of the Axe body wash, the little ones. And for whatever reason, the guy's like, let's just give these out. So we gave them out, and the kids were so used to getting candy. I watched one of the kids open the bottle up and take a drink of it and then like spit it out, and I had to tell our translators, like, hey, tell him that's for like washing off himself, not drinking. And the translator came back, he goes, he had no clue. And I'm like,
no clue.
And it's just the shock of what we grow up as and seeing, and especially small town. But I mean, there was places where there was like 4 or 5 houses, and that was a town. And then there was just 10 kids. And I remember we had one school in our area of operations that we'd drive by there, and there'd be some kids there sometimes, and it's just the difference in culture is just insane, but people can't fathom unless you go see it.
And then even being a country under siege, right?
Yeah.
For whatever the reason, right, wrong, or indifferent, it would be very difficult for us. I mean, I know it's very difficult for me to take our day-to-day with structure of government that we have, and running water, and go take your kid to the park, and all of these things that we take for granted. I've talked to people before about that and their experience there. What's the one takeaway for you from that entire time that you were there?
Just we take for granted way too much. The fact that I let my kids go to the park and they have a park to go to, or a pool, a splash park, any of that stuff. It's just, over there's none of that. Those kids would go play in a puddle, and that was the best thing ever for them. So it's just a lot. We take so much for granted, we don't even know it.
Yeah, and until you go experience that and see it firsthand, you don't.
Oh, yeah.
You don't. So, okay, so you had mentioned working at the Hutch prison. What is kind of give me a timeline on that. You said you had done that before you were deployed.
Yep.
So then did you come back to the same job? Or?
Yep. So the prison was very, very good about taking care of their National Guard people. So I finished all of their training there at the prison, became a CO, and was working I was on 3 to 11 shift because no kids, none of that stuff. 3 to 11 was the best shift ever because you can get off work, still come hang out with friends, go home, sleep in all day. So started working there. Quickly learned, I was probably one of the youngest prison guards at the time, quickly learned that these guys have all day to try to manipulate you and take advantage of you, and they tell you all that in the training, but until you get to understand it and understand that, hey, not every good conversation is a good conversation. I had one of the, I call them old timers, but a guy who'd been there a while. I was talking to him today who just wanted to be friendly, I thought, and he goes, nah, dude, he's trying to bring you in so that way eventually when he pops that question, it won't be so weird for you to give him something extra and just keep going. He goes, you got to keep your head on a swivel, and you can't trust anything these guys say.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that learning that for a while and then deploying and then come back, and I was like, and after going overseas, you're so self-aware of what's going on. I came back and it was just kind of like, well, I'll go to work now, and these guys ain't gonna get anything over on me because I am not going to play that game.
A little bit more life experience taken down. Okay, so for people that have never been incarcerated, right? And granted, you're on the one side of the fence, and your responsibilities are to ensure that you're keeping not only, I mean, for lack of a better word, the inmates safe, as well as society safe from these individuals that have made decisions that have put them in this situation. And even then, I mean, if anybody's ever seen Hutch Prison just from the outside, that's a very intimidating castle-like place. And I don't know when it was built, but probably in the mid-1800s.
I don't even know if there's air conditioning in any of the main cell houses. Because I remember them, like, not that long ago, they were worried about riots. Like, several years ago, I say not that long ago, several years ago, they were worried about riots with these heat waves coming through, because there's not really any controlled air. I think if I remember right, the guard offices have some, but the cells generally don't have much of anything.
What can you? I guess my question would be not to say what you saw or whatever, but what was that experience like when it came to? I don't know. I would just think that the word misery comes to my mind. You know, you get to go there and then go home, right?
Yeah.
But is that just really an awful, miserable place to be?
So, actually working at the detention center after the prison, I learned from the inmates. It kind of came full circle. I learned it all. Most of the inmates or people incarcerated would rather be at the prison. Granted, it may not have air conditioning, you may not have a TV in your cell, but they have a job. They can go learn, they can go do stuff. Where when you're in jail or in detention center here locally, you're just sitting there waiting for a court date and you have a TV to watch, and that's about it. At the prison, you can go out, walk around, you actually can go outside to the yard where you can go play basketball and do all that stuff, where here we don't. At the jail, they don't have any of that. And a lot of those guys, as long as they have their routine and they get treated like a person, that was the one big takeaway I had, is just treat them like people, treat them like how I want to be treated if I was in their situation, and you get so much more respect out of it. So,
and you mentioned that, and I want to get into something later on about just, well, like a lot of people ask me why I'm doing this series on law enforcement, why I've interviewed so many law enforcement officers in the past. And I think here locally, one important thing that we need to do is to tell the story of the people behind the badge, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to paint everybody, and let's say one bad experience that you may have or that you perceive that you've had, that all people in law enforcement are the same way, or it's just very easy to generalize and put all those eggs in one basket. So it's really comes down to just, for lack of a better word, humanizing people, telling a story. They're a life, they're a human being. This might be their occupation, but there's a human being, right? That has life experiences and is doing the best they can to serve the public. So speaking of that, and then putting that into the context of what you just said, as far as I mean, because there's got to be some kind of relationship, even if it's just very professional, with people who are incarcerated for maybe the rest of their life, maybe just a short period of time, but with all different kinds of crimes and things they've done to people. What's that like, Colt, for people that just don't know?
It's, at first it's very difficult to understand. Like, you have to try to be personal with them, but you can't share like personal stuff that's going on. Like, I can't be like, oh, hey, my wife and I just had a kid. You can't, because then they'll eventually try to use that against you. What I found is just stuff that they're going to see on TV, like, oh, hey, did you watch this game, or did you see that? Like, you have to find common ground, something that you guys can have a conversation of, but you have to, I don't want to say take yourself out, you still have to be a person to them, but you have to talk to them like I'm talking to somebody on the street that
maybe
just
you don't know.
like, it just, walking into Casey's or something, and it's somebody I've never met, and I see that, hey, they have a KU shirt on, and hey, how was that game there? And were you upset as I was about how this game went? I mean, just, you have to have that stuff where they understand that, hey, I'm just trying to talk, to have a conversation, where you treat them like they're outside, even though they're not.
Yeah. Did you ever see or experience anything while being an officer that, you know, we hear on the street, I say on the street, but here in the public, we have this perceived idea about what the day-to-day is like, and that there's all these potentially horrible things that are happening from inmate to inmate, or inmate to staff, or whatever the case may be. Was there ever anything or an experience that you saw that you were just like, wow, this is out of this world?
Yeah, so pretty quick out of our training, when we started going to our assigned post, one of the guys I went through training with, I think I was in B cell house. That's the one where I was assigned to for most of the time. And so the rotunda is the big open area right in the middle of all the cell houses, and we were in the middle of lunch or something. I remember seeing him going across, headed over to D cell house, and I watched as an inmate came from the side and just started pummeling him, and I'm like, oh no. I couldn't get out because I was locked in my cell house, and there's only one other guy, and we have to stay in there. But I was like, whoa. And then I later found out that him and that inmate had a disagreement, and the guy, I'm not going to say it was very black and white, but he just kind of pushed this other inmate a little too far that on that day. And it's like, okay, this is all very real. Like, I have to, like, it's a very fine line to be a good corrections officer. And it's a very hard job. Like, I will never take away anything from that, because it is an extremely hard job.
Was there a lot of, you talked about inmate officer altercation. Yeah. Was there a lot of inmate to inmate confrontation?
It's not like you see in the movies. Yes, there are fights. It's kind of like high school kids say something to somebody else and they don't like it and they start fighting. It's not like you don't see in the movies where, oh, there's a hit put out on this person. I never saw anything like that. I know it's happened there before, and I know it happened after I left. It's not as often as, oh, this person's been greenlit, I think is what they say on all the TV shows. That's not something that I ever remember seeing, but I know it can happen. I know guys get beat up quite a bit. It's just doesn't happen every single day like a lot of the movies portray.
Yeah, very, very day-to-day mundane.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, something happens.
Yep.
Right? Would you say that's similar to your time in the military, where day-to-day you're going along and it's just routine, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this is taking place?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Just even like now in policing, we can go from just a normal day, and then the next traffic stop turns into a chase, or that burglary call is a legitimate burglary call and the burglar's still there. I mean, it's like everywhere. But yeah, it can go 2 weeks with nothing, and then you can have a week of just stuff happening. It's like, oh, why is this going on? And then it doles back out.
So what's the main difference? You had mentioned that after you had worked at the prison, there became an opportunity for you to be at the Harvey County Detention Center, that it was beneficial because, of course, you just didn't have to drive back and forth. But you had mentioned a little bit about that. In your opinion, before we move on to the patrol aspect and you moving from the detention center to patrol with Harvey County Sheriff's Department, or I think, well, you didn't say it, but I think that's where you're going with that. But what in your opinion is the main difference between like a facility or corrections when it comes to like a state prison versus a county jail?
Just giving options to the inmates to do stuff. At the jail, like I said, they literally just sit and watch a TV and wait for that call over the intercom to go to court and find out kind of where they're going to end up. And at the prison, they have jobs. They go do stuff. They can, go learn a trade. I think they still have the barber school over there where people become barbers, and then when they get out, they can become a barber on the street and have a job when they get out right away.
Yeah.
So it's just it's the mental game. Jail is literally a lot of sitting around doing nothing. Prison, they can go do stuff.
Yeah. It's just a different life, day-to-day life.
Yep.
All of them are incarcerated one way or another, but it's a different day-to-day life, right? So people feel like living in county jail is just horrible, and then going to prison is some kind of sweet release then.
Yep, exactly. It's so
crazy.
It's so backwards, but once you sit there and look at it and think about it, it does make sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay, so at this point in stage, were you confident that while working in the jail, because I know that I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, if you're working for the Harvey County Sheriff's Department, I've learned this, that generally speaking, most people start in the detention center, and after a period of time, then they can go to being on patrol. How did the transition in your life go from I'm in corrections and this is my job to I want to be potentially on patrol or a police officer out there on the street?
So way back when, the jailers used to be able to go out and do ride-alongs. So I would get off of work, and like Gary Littlejohn worked for the sheriff's office at the time. I would ask him when he'd bring someone to jail, or I'd see him like, hey, can I come ride tonight? Yeah, sure. Because that's what he did when he was, so he knew that this is kind of how you start training and learning kind of how I would react. So I would go do ride-alongs with him. I would go do ride-alongs with Brian Russo at Newton P.D. And then, so after a few ride-alongs, I realized like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Like, I can see myself doing this and spending a lot of time doing it. And when I started the jail, there was I don't want to say it was a rule, but there was an average of a 2-year work time in the jail. And then what it was always said is if you worked past 2 years, it was very unlikely that you would get to the patrol side, just because of there was never openings at the time. Once people were in, they were just there, and that's what it was. So after I got back from my deployment and finished my like 3rd or 4th year at the jail, I finally got that opportunity. But prior to that, I had started applying elsewhere. I'd actually had an application into Newton, Derby. I mean, at the time, everywhere was hiring, and then when I get to testing, it'd be me and 60 other people. But then once the position finally came open, I was able to move over. When T called me in, I was like, yep, I absolutely, like at that time, I had no question. I was like, this is what I want to go do.
You were just waiting for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So once I got out, it was like they cut the reins off, and I was extremely proactive for a long period of time and just loved every second of it. And
when you say extremely proactive, tell me what that means, Colt.
I made a lot of traffic stops. And when I say traffic stops, I mean I would stop everything from no tag light and walk up, explain to the person what's going on, look at their license, and make sure they're valid, had insurance, and then send them on their way. No, I don't like writing tickets. I just wanted to get up and talk to the person and see if there's something more going on. DUIs, suspended drivers, those things that can impact other people. That was what I was always looking for. And then eventually I started falling into a lot of drug cases. That was back when Colorado legalized weed, so everybody would go flying over there to pick up their weed and bring it back, and most times smoking it while they're driving back. So
that's smart.
Yeah,
that's really smart.
So I started kind of falling into these cases, and like it was at a point in my life where that was almost everything to me. When I graduated the academy and then started doing all this stuff, my wife and I had our first kid. And so I love night shift. I would always ask to stay on nights. They would never leave me on nights, but I would always ask, like, hey, can I just stay on nights? Because it's more fun for me.
Yeah.
So I'd go do all that. And then slowly I was like, I had more and more interest growing up with hunting dogs. I had so much interest in a canine, and I'd watch the canine guys. They were like they would show up and it's like, the heroes are here, because they get the dog out, they'd go around, do their job, and tell you yes or no, and then we'd go from there. And so it was just so much fun. I was like, man, that's the thing I want. I want to be that guy. Everybody looks up to them when they show up on the scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got a question about this, and I just thought about this. It's almost like if you make a stop and you have a suspicion that there's something more going on here, right? There's definitely something more going on here, but yet at the same time, because the way laws are, I mean, you're an officer, so you have to uphold the law. You might at that point know pretty well in your heart and mind that something's up, but yet have to let them go. But then when you enter in a canine, then they can give a confirmation of something that you knew was happening, and then therefore that allows you to proceed. Is that a wrong way to look at it?
It's the exact right way to look at it. However, it took me a very, very, very long time to understand that dogs are great for finding drugs. Dogs are not great for finding burglars or any financial crime. And it took me a long time to realize there's more crimes than just drug possession. Stolen property, possession of stolen property, if you start looking for that and find a way to legally get it, because I always tell the new guys, hey, you might not get them on this one, you'll get them the next time. Yeah. Don't ruin your reputation or your career on a bad stop here because you know it's there. I agree with you, it's probably there, but they beat you this time.
Yeah,
it happens. You're not gonna win 100% of the time. Yeah. So don't ruin it over it. Just all right, learn from this one and move on.
Interesting thing you say that, because something once again just popped into my mind. A saying that I've heard a lot is to be engaged in some sort of illegal or criminal activity, the person engaging in that has to be right 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. And if you're on the other side of that, where you're trying to stop people from engaging in illegal or criminal activity, you just have to be right once.
Yep, that's the perfect way to put it. And I've explained to people, like, hey, I know there's drugs in that car. My dog may not alerted, but I know they're there. And I've told bad guys, I was like, hey, I know you just bought drugs. I just can't prove it. Good luck on the next one. And I've walked away. And that's my little way of saying, yeah, I know you beat me, but you know I know type thing.
Yeah. Is it okay? So you had mentioned about the canine, and I'm assuming you obviously at one point in time did become a canine, and I want to hear that story. But is there? I mean, I want to say, and this is not. When you talk about somebody that's engaging in illegal activity, we could brand them as a criminal, right? And just paint them all with the "you're all criminal" brush. And I don't think that's necessarily the way anybody really looks at it or wants to look at it, but for lack of a better word, but or the bad guy or whatever the case may be. But this is the person that is engaging in illegal activity, and then an officer then is looking to try to protect and serve in law and order and law enforcement, right? So does it ever become personal it's not about Lance, it's about what Lance is doing. So I'm here to stop what Lance is doing, irregardless of Lance. If Lance wasn't doing what he was doing, then there would be no reason to stop Lance from being a legally law-abiding citizen. So at some point, does it just become completely non-personal? I guess is what I'm looking for.
You kind of have to keep it non-personal because, we've all been affected by some sort of crime, whether it be someone who's got an addiction to drugs, so they're always not always, but they've possessed drugs and used drugs, or somebody who's had something stolen from them. So you can't, as an officer, we can't take it personal. As a friend who knows stuff that happened with another person because of this, you can, but as an officer, we can't. We literally have to look at it as we present the facts of the case. We present, hey, this is exactly the picture I saw when I've arrested this person. If I take it personal, that puts bias in it, and you can't. That's a hard thing for guys to learn. And I'll admit it, when I don't want to say lost, but when I was beat by a bad guy on the side of the street, or I lost. Everybody loses cases in court because of poor report writing. That's one thing that a lot of guys don't. We don't like doing it, so nobody spends time on it. I encourage it now. It's like, no, take your time. Write a very good report. And I've now learned that when you write really good reports, you don't go to court because they all take plea deals. Yeah. It's something you just have to learn. You can't be biased on these situations. Here's what's paint the picture that's in front of you. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and so it doesn't come down to a personal deal. And I guess I look at it the other way too. If I'm not somebody that goes out and chooses to engage in illegal activity, then I have nothing against any officer. I mean,
Yeah.
you're there to protect me if I call the police and need your assistance, or you're out there doing good for the community because you're trying to ensure people are not committing crimes against other people, you know, or even we talk about, you know, you mentioned drugs and drug addiction. They call that a victimless crime, but I totally disagree with that being the case, because first and foremost, the person that's engaging in the activity is victimizing themselves. What they choose to do while they're under the influence is victimizing themselves or allowing others to victimize them. And then it's a very short distance between victimizing other people in order to either support your addiction or whatever. Anyway, so I'm getting into the weeds, and I apologize for that. But you just it triggered me when you had said that you were looking at wanting to get a dog. So at some point, you were able to transition over and be able to be a canine officer.
So after 6 years on patrol, and me bugging T. Walton countless times and about getting a dog, I knew at the sheriff's office at the time it wasn't going to happen, and he even told us, like, hey, while I'm sheriff, it's just not something I'm interested in. Okay. The opportunity arose for me to go to North Newton and handle Canine Elsa, so I jumped all over it. Went to North Newton, became canine officer, canine certified, worked there for a while, and then Chad Gay became sheriff, and he was adamant he wanted a dog program. I voiced my willingness to come back, and so he ended up making it happen. So I left North Newton. Coincidentally, Elsa went back to the old handler. He came back, and so I went back to the county, fundraised for a while, got Canine Odie, and then shortly after that, I got moved into the drug task force just because of my willingness, and I guess still being as proactive as I was to go out and look for narcotics. It was just a really good fit. Did that for several years, I think 5 or 6 years, worked there, and I learned so much during that time, just from all the agencies I worked with around us to the guys in that unit at the time, and I learned so much about police work. It was a very eye-opening experience for me. However, at that time then, so I did that for, like I said, 5 or 6 years. Then it happens to every officer. I don't care if they say it doesn't, it does. Your motivations and just kind of what you want to do start shifting in life. My kids were getting older, sporting events, all the stuff that everybody's like, I wish I'd done. You hear all the old guys that are in law enforcement say, I wish I'd have done more of that. I then started making that shift where, yeah, I want to be there. I want to be at all my kids' games. I want to do all that stuff. So I had to kind of look at it, and this isn't the best fit to be in narcotics and be a canine handler. Odie was getting up in age because we got him pretty old, so it's like, all right, well, hey, it's about time for me to retire him, and so I made the move up to Hesston, where I'm at now, and took Odie home. He's now I think he spends more time with my kids than he spends with me, just because he doesn't. They can't tell him what to do because they don't speak the right language. Right. But he knows enough that...
He likes that. You know that, right?
Yeah, one of them came in and goes, Dad, I tried saying the word and he just won't move. And I walk out and I said the word and he like perked up. I was like, ah. And then he has his Kong ball still from then. He spit it out and just strolled up to the house and went inside. And I'm like, dog. I mean, I'm not mad. It's just hilarious that he knows he's got the kids trained.
Yes, yeah. He knows. He's like, you can't tell me nothing. You're not the man. You're not the man.
So a lot of stuff I learned in there was eye-opening experience. I mean, you just see so much of stuff you don't ever see as a uniformed officer. But it made me better now that I'm back in uniform, I look at things way different.
Okay, question. Not to interrupt you, but why narcotics? In your career of things that you could choose to want to combat, why did you choose narcotics?
So it's I look at it as it's kind of the base for a lot of the other crime in our area. And like I said, drugs and narcotics are not a victimless crime. Like you said, the user, the person who's addicted to them, they are victimized from beginning to end. The dealer, whoever, the manufacturer, all of them, their victims are the users. The victims I'm more concerned about are the user's kids, the user's family, all those people, because they now lost their person that they knew. So, and with that, it was like, hey, this does make a big impact. There are several people that we busted that we got them the help they needed. With all the different, like CCRT, I have a family member, she's a substance abuse counselor. So we were able to start taking a lot of these people that we busted, and I mean, we would try to give them the resources and everything they would need to work it through. And it just, to me, I felt like I was actually, and it was funny, I was cleaning out one of my social media accounts, and I actually found a message from a guy that he messaged me, and we're not friends, so it didn't show up, and it was in the other account. He actually thanked me for busting him, because he goes, I've been clean since that day. He goes, you changed my life. And I didn't respond. It's like, oh, that's a feel good. That right there, that made it worth it.
Yeah.
It just,
because ultimately your heart motivation is not to get the bad guy in this situation.
Not punishment.
It's to remove this substance, whatever that might be, off the street, because it's poison and it kills people. It kills them either physically, emotionally, spiritually, their families, the whole thing, or then winds up hurting other people somehow, way or another. So then was the heart motivation, Colt, just if I can just get this substance, if I can just get it off the street and people are unable to find it or use it, or is there, was it ultimately with the heart attitude to help?
The deep root of it, yes. And you don't see it because, granted, court paperwork, people go to prison, you don't see it, but when you start talking to people and you bump into people like, oh, hey, I did this and I've been clean this long, it's like, that's awesome. I know several people who carry their coins around with them and show them with pride. It's like, that is awesome. Keep it going. And then it also comes with disappointment. There's several people that we thought we got them on the right track, and turns out we didn't. And it's just, you feel like you failed them a little bit, and ultimately you have to understand, and it took a little bit, but once the first person I ever thought I got off of everything, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then they got arrested like a few days later, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go talk them in the jail. So I walked down to the jail, and they immediately started busting out in tears. I'm like, dude, I tried. And then I would try again, and then it would happen again. It's like, all right, I have to understand kind of where I can only help people so far, and the rest of it's up to them. So, but yeah, the ultimate route is if you can help one person, you did something good.
Yeah, because there's all these people by extension, especially if they have kids, or
they
have a mom and a dad, and
the big motivation for me was once I had kids, and it's like crimes against kids. When I was a younger cop and didn't have them, and I was like, oh, I can go work. I feel bad about it, but now I see it, and it's like, oh, this is terrible. Like it just in your mind, like I have kids now, and the kids this age, and that changes a lot of things.
They're friends, and then you just in your mind's eye, that would be tough.
So that changed a lot of things, and the fast pace of narcotic world is like, no, it's time for me to go spend time where I think it matters more, and that's kids. And so okay, you did just overarching, I guess a two-part question. Was there, just taking away from at your entire law enforcement career at this point in time, you are a narcotics officer, drug dog, the whole thing, from at that point in time, what can you take away as what you believe to be the most rewarding thing about that time? And then on the flip side, and maybe go with this one first and the reward later, but what was something that took place that you just absolutely remember that left an impression on you, where you just were just at a loss? The loss thing's kind of hard. Because you go through that, you have so many of those where it's like, I failed at this, or this one didn't work out. Honestly, I've had close friends from that had to battle the addiction. That was probably it's like, man, I'm trying out here, and it's affecting, like I said, it affects everybody. and I have coworkers who've had the same battle. It was just that stuff. It's like we're trying really hard here, and the war on drugs, it's a never-ending battle. I think it's the cartel and whoever's sending them all up here is just going to keep doing it because it's making so much money. And it's just like, I don't want to quit. I will still go look for drugs and go do all that stuff now. But it's just, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit because to me, what matters more is my family and stuff. There's always going to be someone else who wants to come up, be a narcotics officer, and I will do everything I can to help them. I'll give them any knowledge. So that's probably the biggest takeaway for me, though, is the knowledge that I have, that I learned from all these past. And the best way to learn is to talk to the users and dealers. You'll be amazed at how much they want to tell you. Just if you, like I said, it goes back to the prison where you treat them like a person. I mean, there's guys that was sent in prison that just like, well, here's why I did, and here's how I did it. It's like, I appreciate that. Like, I can't get you out of your sentence, but thank you. Just talking to them, treating them like people, even though they know that they're going to be going away for a long time.
Yeah, and then reward.
Yep. Just the fact I made an impact on lives. Like I said, the one message I got, that's just one that I know that I didn't really know about because I honestly had forgot about the guy. It's like, one and done. He's on his way. But knowing that there are people out there that are doing better and clean, and some of them, even I know one or two that got their kids back after they lost them because of their addiction.
So that's the reward, making a difference.
Yeah. Making
a difference because you make the difference, and then once again, as you said, it's up to the individual what they do with that.
Yeah, and it's even if it's just one person, though I believe in that ripple effect. I'm hoping that person can change someone else's life and help them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so of course we were Hesston Police Department. So because you had mentioned this, just the transition in your life as far as deciding, that I mean, I won't call it a younger man's game, right? But the knowledge that, hey, I want to focus on my family. I've got youngsters or whatever, and I don't want to be there to miss this or whatever. So I'm assuming that at some point a position came open with HPD, Hesston Police Department, Chief Ollier. You're an Onyx star, came on the program before. We just have to give him a shout out, boss man, Okay, but an opportunity came to go over there. Why make the transition over to Hesston Police Department?
So growing up in Hesston, when the mischief I did cause as a youngster, Eiler was generally there, and so when the time came, it was like, you know what, that only makes sense to me because actually even before him, when Doug was there, Hesston's always been super family oriented. When I have a kid's sporting event that I want to go to, or kids concerts and stuff like we're going through right now, hey, I call the boss, like, hey, normally we have 2 on, but tonight so-and-so took off and my kid has this going on. Do you mind if he goes, no, I'll come in and cover the street, and you go to the thing and then come back when you're done. That's happened to me, and I knew he'd done it for other guys, but it's like, and then when I came in and it happened to me, it's like, you know what, this is what I want right now. I know a lot of and I'm not speaking ill of other agencies, but you don't see that very often. A chief that's willing to just throw away his evening to come in to cover for one of his guys to go to a kid's sporting event. So when the department's goals line up with what your goals are, that's kind of a calling. So when I jumped on it as quick as I could because I knew that if other guys were in my position, it was going to be gone. So
yeah. So the culture is good.
Yeah.
Hesston PD culture is good.
Yeah. It's for me right now, bar none, the best. So
what is it like? You said being in mischief or whatever. So there is a huge transition. I think that I'm feeling right now, as far as for you, is you go from narcotics officer for a county, right? Yep. So then focusing in even on like a larger community, Newton, and then moving forward into that pace, right? Versus changing over, going to HPD, the pace is different. And then from there, you're going back to a community that you grew up in to serve and protect.
Yeah. So the transition it goes from a lot of proactive policing, which I still try to do as much as I can, but you go to more of a community policing aspect, which if you can combine those two is probably the best thing you can do for anything. It's not unusual for me to just be driving down the street and see kids that I either see at the basketball games or they're in my kid, and then I'll stop and talk to them and say, hey, how's your guys' night going? Or their parents come out. There's been a few times where it's taken me 30 minutes to get down a block because I stop, talk to this person, get another couple of houses down. There's somebody else that I'll just stop and talk to. When in the summertime, I have my windows down, and I generally don't go much over 10 miles an hour on the side streets just because I end up talking to so many people. To me, that's super rewarding just because I feel like they know that, hey, he's out driving around looking for stuff. He's out making sure no one's doing mischief like high school kids like to do, because I was one of them. And then also having that relationship with those high school kids, where I've seen some high school kids when I've been off of work doing stuff with my kids, it's like, so I'll go find them, or I'll get a hold of like our officer Frick, the SRO, and hey, have a chat with them about this, please. And that's the difference in communities, because if you're in a big city, I mean, Newton's quite a bit bigger, and that doesn't happen. It's comical to me. I'll see someone post something on Facebook, and it's like, hey, just call the PD. I mean, I know you're not going to get someone you know, but just call them, let them know what's going on, and you can still post it. Just say, hey, does anybody know this truck? They're doing this. Parents, fix it. Yeah. And it's funny, a few days ago, I ended up calling a parent of one of the kids. Like, hey, I just stopped your kid doing this. I want to make sure you're aware of it. I told him to tell you. If he doesn't, now you know. Yeah. And
maybe I'm not giving him a ticket today. Maybe I'm just educating him that whatever you were doing, guy, might be fun. Yeah. Might sound fun, might be fun, but here's these consequences that you don't see. And then a call to mom and dad.
Yep. Yeah, and I hated that when I was a kid, because I'm telling you right now, Chris Carr and Chris Eilert had my mom's number. That was more of a punishment than they could have gave me. I'd rather have taken a ticket, but I learned more from that as a person than I think I would ever have getting in tickets and stuff. So that's why, to me, it's educational learning rather than punishment learning for when it comes to tickets. However, if you do something multiple times, it's going to become a citation at some point, and we've tried the avenue of, hey, let's not do this. So
when we talk about fighting crime and different law enforcement agencies and different demographics and town sizes and all this thing, if you're living in a community where there's 20,000, 30,000 people, your percentage, even if it's low, of individuals that are going to engage in criminal activity, your officer to individuals that choose to engage in criminal activity are off balance, right? Type of a thing. In a community like Hesston, because it is small, then your percentage of individuals that are choosing to engage in criminal activity, like serious criminal activity, are going to be astronomically low. With that, then does the mindset of I'm not necessarily here in this community so much, which it is part of the job to crack down on any crime that's happening, but also to just be the presence for whatever it is that chooses to come into my community and do things. Because a lot of people, I think, and I preface this, when you talk about a small community that's right off the interstate, okay, there are thousands of people that are going along the interstate all day long, right? And then you have a small community, so it's a lot of times I think the idea is this is a small little quaint community. I can come here and do whatever I'm going to do, and none's going to be none the wiser. So does it transition over to protecting the community from outside versus internally or is it the same? I mean, I'm trying to just understand.
It's kind of the same. So a lot of it comes down to the officer's mindset. We can't just turn our guard down and be like, hey, I'm the presence to keep it out. It'll never happen. We have people come up from Wichita all the time because they know it's a small community, and they assume that, hey, there may be not even a cop working tonight, because there are some communities that don't have overnight coverage. We're one that does. There may not even be a cop out. I'm going to go burglarize this business, which has happened multiple times, and we've ended up catching these people, and some of them don't even have ties to Hesston. They just drove by and like, oh, hey, that place looks good, and I bet there's no one there. So when it comes down to you have to be able to. So we have all of our cars are equipped with MDTs or dispatch. You run a tag. Hey, this is a local. I still have to treat it as every other person because I can't be biased towards them. But however, I know that, hey, I've dealt with this person, or I've stopped this person before, I've seen this person before. So you can have that different approach to it. However, the same thing can be said with, hey, I ran this tag, or this car's not from around here and it's from Wichita or Salina. You walk up there, you're going to be dealing with someone. You have to be on edge on how you're going to deal with it. Like, and I'm not saying be edgy with them, but you just have to know when I walk up to the car, are they expecting the robot Wichita cop, or the guy who's been working this beat forever and is just not happy about it and going to write a ticket, or is this the small town cop who doesn't know what he's doing? So you have to be conscious, aware of what's going on all the time. So, and it's just, you have to be able to read the people. I mean, I've walked up to cars and it's like, man, this dude is super nervous, and normally when I deal with really nervous people, there's crimes afoot. No, this kid's just never been stopped by the cops before, and he's like, I don't know what to do. And I've had like a high school girl just break down in tears. I'm like, hey, I literally stopped you for rolling the stop sign. I'm not writing you a ticket. I'm just telling you to come to complete stop. And she's like, I don't know what I need to give you. I'm like, and I was like, I'm going to teach you so that way the next time you get stopped, you don't have the water. Like, you're not getting a ticket. Just calm down, relax. We'll get through this. And so you have to be able to go from that to, hey, this guy's super confrontive and is maybe a sovereign citizen who doesn't believe in law enforcement. I mean, so it's one of those things. You have to be prepared for all of it and have to take it as it comes. You can't just freeze, because then it becomes even more of a problem.
And you may have already answered this question, but we are coming to the end. I want to ask one more question before I move on to the last question, give you the opportunity to speak directly to your heart's mind. But if you could just, and like I said, you might have already covered this, but what's, in your opinion, the best thing about working in law enforcement? You've had quite the extensive career. I mean, you've been in the military. From there, then, National Guard, but full time. I mean, so you got a taste of both. Seeing the world. I asked you about, what you would ever recommend to somebody to do that in their life, and then you went from corrections at a prison to corrections at a local detention center to then law enforcement on patrol to drug task force to now over into a small town community, doing a lot of community policing, as it were. If somebody's listening right now asking themselves, is law enforcement for me? I think because you've done all of those different things, you might have a good grasp on what to say to somebody if they were asking themselves, I think I'd like to do that. I've always wanted to maybe do that. Everything that's going on in the world today, the good, the bad, and the ugly, what would you say to somebody that's considering pursuing a career in law enforcement, Colt?
So this has kind of been a thing for me. I would discourage them from it. I would tell them, hey, it's not all what you think it is. It's a lot of paperwork, a lot of late nights, a lot of missing a lot of stuff. But then I'd look at them and say, if whatever I just told you doesn't discourage you, it's calling to you. If you don't mind missing a few things with family, and a lot of things sometimes, if you don't mind doing paperwork, if you don't mind having people call you a liar in the middle of a courtroom saying you planted this or you did that, if you can handle that and you still want to do this job, it's for you. I went to a high school career day and I said, hey, who here wants to be a cop? And a whole bunch of them raised their hand, and I went through a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, you have to do this, 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 this. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this at all, and this is why. And I did my presentation, explained everything, and I was like, all right, who here still wants to be a cop? And like about a quarter of them raised their hands. I was like, you're the ones who truly deep down want to do this. I don't want my kids to have to do this job. I want this job to be gone when the time comes for my kids to get that age. I know it won't happen, but I don't want my kid to have to do this job. This is the job that I want to do so that they don't have to. But deep down inside, if they know they want to be a cop, they're going to be a cop. You can't discourage it. It's just, I've learned that it's something a lot of guys like, I don't know, some guys like, I've always wanted to do this, and other people like, oh, I just kind of fell into it. No, it was down deep inside, you just didn't know it.
Yeah.
So
So it's a calling, not an occupation necessarily. Yep. Interesting answer to that question, I must say.
Yeah,
very interesting answer.
When I had all the kids, and I was like, "You don't want to be a cop." One of the teachers in the back who I went to school with was like,
"Oh my God,
what did he just say?" And I got done and I walked over. I was like, "Did that shock you?" She goes, "Yeah, but it totally made sense. Like, because there's bad cops out there. I won't lie, but." She's like, it literally makes sense because you want those ones who have that deep down inside, like, I want to do this job. I don't care how bad it sounds.
Yeah.
So
because ultimately it's the love of being involved, protecting, serving through everything. That makes sense. I appreciate that. Cool. Yeah. I appreciate that because even then I'm gonna have to sit on that for a while.
Yeah,
and understand that.
Because it was one of those things that for me is the aha moment. It's like, man, this all sucks, but I'm going to come back tomorrow and do it again because I enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a calling.
Yep.
It's a calling. Okay, with that being said, we are coming to the end of the program. I know you've seen at least 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of these podcasts before, and one thing that we do on the program is just give the guests the opportunity to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening. You can say whatever you want. Cool. What do you got?
I would just say no matter what career you're doing, whether it be in a factory or nursing, police work, spend time with the ones that really matter. Like I said, my transition of my career is now taking me back to my family and my kids, and I find more joy in spending time with them and doing everything I can with them, even though they might drive me insane sometimes. But spend the time with them that matters, because when the time comes, they're going to be the ones that are there beside you the whole way through. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Colt. Well, I appreciate you coming on the program. I appreciate everybody listening to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest on the program today was Colt Pfautz, who is currently with the Hesston Police Department. Thank you for your service, Colt. I want to thank everybody who serves in law enforcement or as a first responder for everything they do, for all the sacrifices that they make. We support you, we appreciate you, and we always have your back.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everybody.